Hey, good afternoon everybody. Today I'm going to show you how to make the filling that I use for the pierogies. Now, pierogies can have any kind of filling you want. I like this one. This one is mashed potatoes, caramelized onions, which obviously these aren't yet. And now, I use ricotta instead of dry cottage cheese, okay? Because dry cottage cheese, if you use regular cottage cheese, it's too wet, and your pierogies will fall apart and have that horrible, like, kind of all the mashed potatoes will be like goo. And if you use dry cottage cheese, if you don't crumble it correctly and then get wetted up correctly, and then you get like dry chunks and it's just no good, right? So ricotta is a happy medium. So I got 2 medium onions, 6 medium potatoes, and 1 pound of ricotta. Forgot to turn the camera on. Started chopping the onions. You want them about this size, okay? And you want to just do like a regular fine dice on these, okay? Got about that much butter, tablespoon or 2, same amount of oil. You want the water to come out of these, and this is not what I call like a super healthy dinner, so a little bit of salt in here is not going to hurt. And get the potatoes mashed. Potatoes are pretty much done. Now, I use yellow potatoes because if you notice, they just hold together so much better. I haven't put any butter, milk, nothing. This is just the potatoes themselves. And that's what you want for pierogies. You want a type of potato that will stick to the filling and not get watery. Black pepper is always good, not too much. Just a nice sprinkling on the top there. Just dump all the cheese in. Now I'll scrape a little bit out just so you can see it. That's like a very fine cheese. This is exactly what we want. It's already nearly creamy. And if you've worked with the dry, you'll know what I mean, the difference. So just get that mashed together while the onions are finishing. The onions are looking good, so I'll just bring it over and add it to the filling. Before I do this, this has started to set up really, really nicely, like you would not see with dry cottage cheese. So now I'll just bear with me for a second here. I'm just gonna add it all mashed in. And once that's in, let it cool completely. Luckily, living in Canada, I've got a big fridge outside. I just have to cover it and put it on the back porch. So when are you done? When you put in, you just keep going and going. When you put down the masher and it makes a sucking noise, when you pull it out, you're done. Okay, so just let that cool off. First thing you're gonna do, I got my dough out of the fridge. It's all rested and soft and lovely, and you just want to like rub it and squeeze it and slap it all at the same time to test for doneness. Yes, it is. All right. Okay, so just cut it on the cutting board. See, look at that, how good that is, eh? And then, yeah, because it was in the plastic bag, it does not have a hard surface, which is awesome, because you want this to be as soft as possible. So I'm just going to keep one piece here. I got my filling here. Now you can either cover it with a paper towel. Personally, I just like putting it back in the bag. It's just so much easier. Now I find what's easier is roll it on the cutting board and then make your pierogies here, and you'll see what I mean. So what you're going to do is start making a rope out of the dough. So basically just let it fall and give it a squeeze, turn it over, give it a squeeze, and until you have a rope about that long. Then I'll just move the shot here. And what you're going to do is kind of sort of make a half snake out of it. And you can either cut this piece off and put it in the bag, but this is going to be going pretty quick at this point. And then just roll it till you've got it that thick. I haven't got a ruler here, but I've been making these for a while, so I know what's going on here. Now, what you can do is you can either do these one at a time, or you can just start cutting with a paring knife. If you're quick about it, these will not dry out in the time that it takes for you to make some. If you think it is, just moisten a paper towel. Like basically get one of those paper towels under cold water and wring it out and just drape that over the dough pieces here. I've got a little bit of flour, and I'm just going to dust the counter with it. Not too heavy, because you don't really want to make these too dry, because you still want them to stick. So take one of the pieces, roll it into a ball, drop it onto the floured counter, push it, turn it, push it into the flour. Then get your little rolling pin, back, turn, roll. Okay. If it starts to stick, either just sprinkle a bit of flour on that, or just turn it over in your stuff on the counter. There's going to be flour flying around here, don't get concerned. Now, because this is a really wet dough, you can go quite thin, because you want people to enjoy their pierogies. You don't want them having to be biting into a big mouthful or whatever. Okay, but this again is personal preference. Now, even though it's rested, it will still contract a bit, and you can see through that. Isn't that nice? All right, so then you've got a teaspoon of filling. I've just got the filling off to the side there. In the middle, just kind of be careful not to touch the edges, okay? Like, you can wipe the spoon down off in the middle because it's kind of sticky, but as long as you don't touch the edge. Then, because you've got gloves on, it's quite safe to touch. Bring it up, pinch it at the corners, pinch it at the side. Now, because you're making pierogies and not dumplings, you don't have to flute it. You don't have to do that, like, you know, thing like that, like you would with dumplings. You can if you want. Okay. Now, they take up less room when I mean, you can lay them flat if you want, because you're just going to use up your whole cookie sheet. So what you do is you just sit them up like this on the cookie sheet, like they were Chinese dumplings, the jiaozi there, and just keep going. Okay, I'll make one more to show you, and then I'll turn off the camera and go to town on these and just basically do them all up at once. Because the faster you get this done, the better it is. Now, it doesn't have to be perfectly round, because you can negotiate with these things once the filling is in. Okay, so don't stress and waste too much time trying to get a perfectly round thing. Just drop your filling, push it away from the edges. Okay, now strangely enough, this is actually going to make a better dumpling when you go long ways than this way, okay? Because that's going to make a mess. So if you do get a situation with an odd shaped wrapper like this, just go up from the long side to pinch it, and pinch, pinch, pinch. You can push it back in, and because the lovely dough has got just the right amount of everything in it, you don't need to wet these, and they stay stuck. Yeah, and I cut a new strip here, and I had to roll them in a bit of flour because they're starting to stick together. This stuff is still as good as it was when I did the first one. This is just an excellent dough, though you may have to practice a couple times to get the feel for it, to get it just right. I'm just gonna freeze that one. Now, you don't have to cover these to freeze them, okay? Just leave them on a cookie sheet in your freezer, and you can, you know, put them in smaller portions if you need to. I got a fairly big deep freeze, and then after, when they're solid, frozen solid, that's when you bag them. Time to make dinner. The pierogies are all still in one piece. They're quite soft still. You can see them. What I'm going to do is just show you. There's two ways to do this. I find it's much better to put in a couple on a strainer and just repeat the process till they're all in. When I'm doing this many, I make sure that I use a really big pot of water. Now, as you put them in, make sure that you stir them around. Not too hard. You don't want them to break. There's cheese inside. But you also don't want them to just clump and sit on the bottom. So I'll come back in a few minutes. When they're floated to the top, I'll take some out and let you see how they're doing. Here we are. Pierogies are pretty simple, you know. When they float to the top, they're pretty much done. And one thing you got to remember is if you're going to cook them longer to get them more tender, always turn the heat down. Because if you boil them at high, once they're floating, they can like pop open and all the filling goes into the water. Now, Not to diss the commercial products, but you may have noticed sometimes when you get them out of the freezer, the skins are cracked. Those ones are automatically going to break, so you're going to lose part of your pierogies. Not one of these have broken. There may be one that leaked, I think, in here somewhere because the water's looking a tad cloudy. But just because I may not have... That's the nice part. The dough is so soft you can actually re-pinch the seals before you put them in if you've noticed any that are not. But geez, they're looking nice, so I'm going to get a plate and just show you a couple. Just see how they finish, and then I'm going to turn off the camera and have supper. And no, I'm not eating all of these. I'm just going to cut one open for you to see it. And yes, I will be the first to say this. This is way better than anything you can buy in the store. Alright? I know this for a fact. I'm not, you know me, I don't talk up my food. There we go. Okay. So there's that nice filling. And they're really, really tender, and I can tell they're going to be chewy, and they'll be just wonderful. So, that's how you make pierogies. Thank you for watching. Give this a shot. Oh yeah, and you see the froth coming up? Turn the heat down. Okay, subscribe. See you later, guys.